Let's give a round of applause for Jari.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. So, I'm talking about Jakarta EE at this session, and I didn't find Jakarta EE logo because it doesn't exist yet. There is a competition ongoing that they will have a new logo for Jakarta EE, and I didn't find suitable dinosaur, so that's the Java EE logo. And the purpose of this talk is to introduce to Java EE, what it is, what is not, and why it has been so big in history, and why it might be relevant today still, and why you might want to know something about it. So who's talking? Me, Jari Timonen. I live in Pirkkala with 2 kids, and I've been working since 2001. I started my career during the end of the bubble in 2000s and saw the end of the crazy days. And I've been working in basic industry, in telco, also in finance sector, and also now here with full-on cloud. So I've been the all life cycle of development from the monster machines and up till the modern cloud environments. And I also did some certifications about Java because it was so hot, steaming hot. So I did 3 of them. I think there originally were something like 5 of them. So those were fun to do at the time because they're good certifications, and they really are something not easy to do. And this is the picture of Java EE to stranger. If you come across to Java EE or Jakarta EE at the first, you don't understand a shit. It's complicated, really complicated, but you have to understand it, why it's like this, in order to do something good and something efficient about it. And what it is, it used to be Java EE. And what is difference between Java? I don't know if everybody knows, but Java is a programming language. Java EE is a collection of definitions and implementations to solve integrations and architectural problems. It's a collection of definitions and implementations and blueprints to solve software-related problems. It's nothing else. It's not something you have to use every single part of it. It's just a toolbox of stuff that you can use. And it includes traditional web development, and it includes also high scalable enterprise systems, and also to connectors to really old systems that you can connect some legacy from the 70s. You can also use them. And where does it come from? Until September 12th, 2017, it was owned by Oracle, and before that it was Sun Microsystems who developed the Jakarta EE, Java EE. And there was this called Java community process that developed Java EE standards. I think we have also working here some members of that process, Java community process, the members and leaders actually of the process. And the process is kind of waterfall. JCP was a waterfall that defined how the Java EE has to be built. It was a really slow process and really time consuming process at the time. And that's the one reason that Java EE didn't develop so fast, because of the process. You have the vendors and who had their own agendas there in the process. So it wasn't just collection of people. There were lots of Swiss banks actually were member of that process, because they have been using so much the Java EE, that they wanted to be part of it and develop the Java EE forward. And the big problem was the vendor-driven development, because everybody wanted their own stuff. It was, well, not optimal. And now Oracle handed Java EE to Eclipse Foundation on 2017 September, and now it's this called Jakarta EE working group. Eclipse Foundation have working groups that are agile, and they are driven by open source development and community. Everybody can join. You can join. Joining can be done just joining the email list. That's the minimum that you can join. And if you want to be a committer, you have to be voted in. You have to your reputation to be member of the committing stuff. But it's not something magical and something that is done in Oracle Spaces or something previously. It's just an open source stuff today. And what about the naming? I think everybody has known that it used to be Java J2EE, Java EE, now it's Java EE. Why? Well, Java to Enterprise was basically 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and you can see the years over there until 2003. And then the modern times, as I call it, was Java EE. From 2006, and now it's Jakarta EE. So if you come across different names, they're the same thing, they're the same stuff. But now you should be calling it Jakarta EE. But everybody understands if you call it J2EE or Java EE, doesn't really matter. Well, the dark ages and the golden times. It depends who's talking and who knows it. If you are maintaining now, it's the dark ages. But if you have been working with it, it's the golden ages of J2EE. And the really big deal about J2EE was it really took the web development giant leaps forward. It was really in 1999. It was something like Perl, C++, and some PHP, but no one really cared about PHP because it was total crap, and it wasn't really up to anything else than web pages. You couldn't do any enterprise level stuff. Everybody wanted to do enterprise. That was the one of the problems. Was everybody wanted to be enterprise, even though they're making web pages with shop carts. They wanted to be enterprise, big, nice, and this was really the time that popularized software development. There was lots of jobs into Java EE developers and Java developers at the time. I was the one that got job as a Java developer in 2001. And lots of C++ developers and Delphi developers just migrated to Java world because it was going so fast and the salaries were excellent at the time. That was really, really, really good because Java was hot and it sold a lot. It sold a really lot. And if you knew something like AGB, you got 1,000 euros more than your colleague over there that didn't know Java AGB, even though it wasn't really just a one library. But the demand was really hot because it was something new at the time, and it was basically aftershocks of the bubble. That people are trying to get some sense out of internet and web and making real dynamic and getting rid of these two-tier systems and desktops and that kind of stuff. This made it possible. And this was really mandatory at the time. If you were at the school, like I was, this was really mandatory to learn Java J2EE. If you wanted the job, you had to learn it as a programmer. You had to learn it. Or then you went to other track, which is the C++ and embedded systems. That's the other track. But web development, it was this. Otherwise, you're out. No one really coded PHP at the time, really, in web page development. It's this hobby stuff. and really until 2000s, MVC was a pattern of desktop environment, and this really J2EE popularized MVC as a web development framework. And I give lots of credit to J2EE to bring it to something sense to web development instead of this ugly Perl stuff that was really horrible. And I'm not gonna go into those technologies. You can see it over there, but after that I have the sidetrack of Struts. If anybody remembers Struts 1.0, it was really the first open source library that really kicked J2EE in the nuts at the time. And it was an MVC framework with the big MVC, and it really helped a lot to develop basic web pages and systems. And this is the problem with J2EE. This is the design patterns and the blueprints of J2EE application. If you do it full Monty, you have to do everything. Every part is layer. Every part is a class. Every part is something that you have to code. This was the big problem. Everybody saw only this. They didn't saw part of the blueprint. They saw all of it. That was the time the problem. People were so excited about this new technology that we have to do all full Monty on. We do everything. We are selling cat food. What the fuck? You're doing this. It doesn't make any sense. That was the problem at the time. And that's why people are so pissed sometimes when they say J2EE, because they had to do this simple shopping cart stuff with these kind of design patterns, and it didn't make any sense. At the time there were no Scrum or Lean, or no one knew those what they were. We had waterfall, and that's it. But if you want to see what they are, you can go Google it. But something has been transferred into this day. If you see over there, somebody might use how do you spell facade? Facade. Facade is something that's sometimes using, and then there is the data access object DAO, which nowadays highly used pattern. Also transfer objects and value lists there and controllers are there, but everything else has been thrown to trash can because you don't really need it. And the challenges: it was incorrectly used and misunderstood technologies. People used everything. They tried to use AGPs, but they could have used only servlets. And the reference implementations were only reference implementations. They had the reference implementation software that were published, this pet shop application that was implemented all the design patterns and used all the equipment, and people took something, copy paste, and I'll do this. And no, you don't do this. It's meant to be the reference implementation of the all, but people started to mimicking and mocking it, and that time it became really monstrous systems that you have to really pay for the server capacity. And one of the misuses and annoyances was the business logic was going to front end at high speed. One thing, there was JSP. Who doesn't know what is JSP? Java Server Pages, front-end technology that was compiled to server-side servlet that was published by HTML to client. It was basically just HTML with Java. And the logic was there. People would, because they were quite annoyed of the back end, they were starting to do everything in the front end, the JSP. That's why nowadays I really don't like doing the business logic in the React and Angular and that end, because at that time it was horrible. Because every if and else of the application was in the JSP, and you couldn't do any if and else blocks in the backend. But you really had to use these 60,000 euro per CPU WebLogic servers, and that was the big problem. And the XML configurations, that was horrible. Who loved it? Did you love it? No. The XML configurations were absolutely horrible. But you had to do it if you wanted to be this high salary J2 EE guru. And the AGB, well, 1 to 2 was too complicated. I'm going to present what is AGB in a couple of slides if someone doesn't know. But it was way too complicated, the implementation. It was a good idea at the time, but way too many moving parts. And then there was Ant, which is a build tool that used to be built. It was horrible. It took 2 weeks, 3 weeks to make the build working. Who has done Grunt? It's horrible, still horrible. If you do it that way, Ant is done. It's the same thing. That's why I hate it. Every single day, if I have to do it. And the Node.js world really reminds me of Java EE at the beginning, because it was so young, and Node.js is so young that the tools and the tooling support isn't there yet. And the first time I got Grunt in my head, another again, motherfucker. Do I have to do 2 weeks of this to get something building of this pipeline? And I thought I get rid of it all, and then well, luckily it has gone really fast forward, Node.js and Webpack and everything, so hopefully something new and better is coming. So, the Horosol. Here's one XML example of it. This has to be done by hand, and this is just a one snippet. If you had AGP application, it had thousands of lines of this, because every bean and everything has to be defined, and you had to do this by hand. There's more. Now you have the persistence layer. If you used container managed beans, which is automatic persisting, and what Hibernate does. Now, this was done in 1999 at this, but you had to define everything like this. I love it. It's absolutely horrible. And this is the Ant. This reminds me of Grunt and so much more. You had to move all your files manually somewhere, give the file patterns and everything. It's really the same deal in Grunt and that build tools. And this is just a small snip. Usually build was combined with 10 of Ant files that did something different stuff, and you combine the build. And you have this Ant web of things that you do. Well, then came Xdocklet. It was really cool tool. This is Javadoc comment block, which can be written into above Java code. This generated automatically everything. It generated this and this automatically. Woohoo! And then it generated also the interfaces and the classes automatically. This was excellent. This was something really cool. I loved it. Hooray for Maven! Maven is cool tool. Even though it's XML, it was really much simpler to do everything with Maven, because you just had to do this kind of block. You can copy paste it anywhere and it works. You don't have to define any directories or anything. This is just a small snip. Of course, Maven has lots of stuff, but it's mainly copy pasting and not moving something manually like in Ant. And then came Hibernate and Spring. And this is they really took the giant kuristusote with J2EE, and that's a good thing only. And then the modern days begin. So the year was 2006. Java 5 was released in 2004, which took Java really forward. There came annotations, and Java EE took some open source technologies like Spring, Hibernate, and Oracle's Toplink, and they took some parts of it and implemented it into J2EE. And they didn't copy straight, but they took the best parts. And this is the time that they started using this convention over configuration, when you didn't have to do any XML configuration, but you had sensible defaults and you can override anything in the XML if you want to. That was really cool. All the XML configuration were just trash canned in a single night. And this was really radical change into J2EE, Java EE world. But this was too late. Spring and Hibernate, and that they had really hard footing already, because of J2EE process was slow. And the age of improvement. There's a spelling mistake. 2009. So now they split it to J2EE into profiles. They had the web profile and the full profile. If you wanted to do only web, you can take a lightweight web container and you can use that. And nowadays the Java servers, usually if you are using Java, they are implementing the web container. So you don't have to anymore use the web logic or anything like that. And the goose that laid golden eggs, AGB, that was the thing. This is a server-side component that enabled distributed transactional and secure applications. That's the whole idea of the AGB. At the 1999, the automatic transactions, automatic secure, that was really something. And it scales automatically in 1999. It was really something at the time. And this was all before REST was even really invented. Even though REST is just using HTTP, but this was before REST was even. No one really thought of using HTTP like that. But the good thing was the transactional, and it got you can join into transactions over multiple servers even. You can have 7 servers, have one transaction, and you can roll back everything. Even though they're different components. That was really cool. That it's automatic, you don't have to do anything. You said rollback, and it just roll back everything. That was the time, really cool stuff. And this was the deal why Java EE was so popular, was this. This is the point of Java J2EE. Is AGB and this transactional. Nowadays, AGB3, this is all you need. It's not really hard. You don't have to do anything XML, anything. This is a stateless session bean that doesn't have any state, but it has life cycle, defined life cycle that you can bootstrap in. So if you want to sometimes try J2EE or Jakarta EE, it's not that difficult anymore. Well, why anyone used or would use Jakarta EE? Like I said at the time, it was security, transactions. proven and tested at the time. It was proven and tested really that you could count on it, although it had bugs, of course. And it scaled in software level without any gimmicks. It was automatic scaling. And it was easier to sell in bigger organizations. That's one reason. In secure organizations, Java was really easy to sell. You could use any Java library, but if you wanted to use Hibernate, you had really big job to use it. And that's why some organizations still use all goes to Java EE and the JSTL and Java server faces and that kind of stuff, because of it's easier to prove that this is secure and it's much more faster. Well, why you should not use? Well, there's lots of reasons. It's not really competitive product to Node.js. I don't think so, because they are in different parts of the application development. One is enterprise. One is not enterprise. It's a modern fast web. And if you don't need transactions, strict security, or that kind of stuff, naming banks or something like that, you really, well, I wouldn't use full-on Jakarta EE anymore. Why it seems so hairy, big, ugly? Because it is difficult libraries to understand. It is complicated. And efficient Java EE architectures are hard to do. They are not easy to do. And that's one of the reasons many have been failed, because they have been doing it wrong. And that's because it's also, of course, the fault of Oracle and Sun, because they went full on with it. And they didn't tell that you can just use one library over there. But if you are using Spring servers nowadays, everybody uses, you are using Java EE. Basically, everything builds on Spring servlet engines, so that's part of Java EE. So you can say that you're using Java EE, if you want to say it that way. Questions?
Please raise your hands if you have any questions. I will give you the microphone. Anyone?
Why?
Okay, here we go.
Why would you use it?
Yeah. So, what do you think about this naming thing? Is this Jakarta somehow so that the Java is going to be a little bit more modern today, and this kind of enterprise edition don't want to be involved to that?
The naming actually is because there's Jakarta Tomcat. So it's under the same project, and I think what will happen to Jakarta EE or Java EE is that it will be modernized, it will be split, and there will be libraries thrown to trash can.
Yep.
I think even though Java EE is something that holds the backwards compatibility, but I think it's going to be much more agile, and the release cycle will be much faster now because the process is agile.
I can continue myself with that. So how is the versioning going to go? Is it going to go hand by hand or hand in the hand with Java versioning? No. How is it going to work?
Nothing to do with Java.
Okay, so it's totally different.
Yeah. Basically, they might want to wait some Java version, but usually they don't. The slowness and it's because of the process. They're not waiting anything. So.
Other questions? Okay, if not, let's have a short break. We'll continue half past, so in 5 minutes with Alex. So there are some snacks in the kitchen and you can find the toilets there, so 5 minutes, guys.